Well, all right. Let's go and get started. Thank you guys for joining us today for our webinar on successful crowdfunding through Kickstarter. We have with us today entrepreneur Samantha Snabes, who is going to walk us through her recent Kickstarter program, which was highly successful, as she has built what is called the Gigabot, which is a 3D printing tool. Samantha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us today. For those in the audience, we have a questions box there at the bottom right. As questions come to you, go ahead and type those in. We're going to let Samantha go through and present her crowdfunding campaign and tell you all about it. And then at the end, we'll stop and open up that questions box and answer any questions you may have as well. So with that, Samantha, I'll go ahead and pass it to you, and you can take us through your presentation, and we look forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's nice to meet you all virtually. As Paul said, I'm Samantha. I'm the co-founder and catalyst for Re3D. It's one of Austin's newest startups. We were incorporated in January 3rd of this year, and a big catalyst for our company was a program called StartupChile.org, where you're given a $40,000 grant and 3 working visas for your team to try and scale or start your operations in Santiago, down in Chile. I'm actually speaking to you all from Santiago, Chile right now. What's unique about our company is we submitted our idea for our company to, is basically kind of a crowdsourced funding opportunity in and of itself to Startup Chile, and upon selection, we came together in Austin for a mini retreat on the 1st and 2nd of January and tried to figure out how we were going to execute our business concept to make 3D printing more accessible around the world, and specifically addressing the cost and the scale barriers to 3D printing accessibility. During those conversations, our chief hacker, Matthew Fiedler, over in Houston, Texas, proposed his vision for what would become Gigabot. So using the funds that we were given from Startup Chile and our initial founders' investments, we were able to prototype Gigabot in 6 weeks, and then launch it on Kickstarter to try and attract some additional resources for future development. So that's the back end of the story, and if you hear a little bit of background noise, I'm here with Gigabot at the Santiago Makerspace, which is our co-working location down here in Santiago. So Paul, please interrupt if it gets too loud or if you hear a drill in the background. So that with being said, this was my first time doing crowdfunding myself. I had some experience in the challenge world through NASA, and also with our initial proof of concept idea this last fall. But in regards to fundraising, we're newbies, so take everything we say with a grain of salt. But these were just some lessons learned that we gained along the way, which at the end helped us attract an additional $250,000. So we chose, there are a couple unique things about our campaign. We chose a 60-day campaign, which in the end resulted in 270 backers. I think for the amount of money we raised, that's a little bit lower than what some other campaigns have seen, but the price point for some of our rewards was a little higher, which we'll talk about later than I think a lot of other hardware products on Kickstarter currently. So that reduced the amount of overall backers. At the end of the day, we were able to move 75 bots, and after serving our backer report, it looks like we moved them to over 13 countries. We were really fortunate to be chosen as a staff pick early on, both for Austin and for Kickstarter overall, and that was really integral, we believe, in our success. Another, so a couple, in thinking about how you set up, you position yourself to have a successful campaign, or at least what we felt really helped us was setting up Amazon payments early. For those of you that haven't walked through this process before, Kickstarter doesn't take your money. They actually work with Amazon payments to arrange that. And what we found is that that process can be a little arduous. Amazon has to validate that you are a U.S. entity or individual, which means that you have to provide them proof that you're operating out of the U.S. In our case, we had to show our EIN and our formation documents for our LLC to Amazon. And because actually they did a great job doing their due diligence, and they saw that I was down in Santiago as a co-founder, The first couple times that we tried to set up our account was actually rejected, which did delay the launch of our campaign. So what I tell people down here in Startup Chile who are in this Global Accelerator program with me, and a large percentage of them do Kickstarter campaigns either during their tenure down here in Santiago or are pretty closely afterwards, is to go ahead and to start setting up Amazon payments long before you even work on your video. I've had a couple of friends down here in Startup Chile, and it took them maybe 6 to 8 weeks to get approved. If you do a Google search, you can hear some other horror stories, but ultimately they're just trying to verify that everything's legal, and it benefits them too because they're going to be taking between Kickstarter and Amazon, you lose 3% and 5% respectively of the total money you raise, and they want to make sure everything's on the up and up. So I would go ahead and from the day that you're pretty confident you're going to have a campaign, go ahead and set up an account with that profile. One thing you might want to think about is whether it's going to be an individual or a company. If you want your Kickstarter campaign to be run through your company, then your Amazon payments account also will have to be clear through your business. And that can take a bit of time to make sure that they're consistent. In regards to video, that was something that our team had a lot of energy around, and I think we were really, really anxious when it came to doing it. There's a lot of schools of thought right now around what makes a successful Kickstarter video, even within the Startup Chile community, and these projects in Startup Chile incubate. My biggest piece of advice would be to let your product tell the story, and looking at the metrics of people. I have actually a few campaigns that are active through Startup Chile, and in the last 4 months since I've been here, it seems to us, or my group of friends, that those videos that focus more on the team or kind of the background of the product and then feature the product later in the video tend not to do as well as campaigns where the product's really called out. There's been some great mentors that have come through our program recently that said the first 60 seconds should be more about your product, and then the last 2 to 3 minutes can be everything else. Because you will notice when you start to drill down in the metrics that people jump off the video pretty quickly. So it's good to get your message out early. One thing we've noticed is that when there's just people talking the whole time about the product, there tends to be a lower conversion to backers. So you do want to kind of keep it fresh and find a way to switch up your screenshots and to really keep your viewer entertained. My recommendation would be to keep your video to 3 minutes or less. And even if you have an awesome product, and we think we do, I think it tends to get a little, the viewer tends to lose a little bit of interest maybe after 3 minutes. Additionally, there's a lot of schools of thoughts around the quality of your video. I personally think that content is more relevant. There are a lot of people that I know, and I have friends who will even use their Startup Chile resources to hire a videographer and to really focus on editing the video and making it a high quality product. At least for 3D printing, what we found in the open source community especially, the community really wants to grow with you and grow with your product and feel like they're actually kickstarting something. So due to that observation, my recommendation would be to actually go ahead and be intentional about keeping your video grassroots. Let them know that you're not photographers and you're not videographers, but you have a really cool product and you're super passionate about it. And I think that the passion in the product is what really needs to resonate. I have met, since we've had an opportunity to connect with other people that have had campaigns north of 200,000, I've met some people who have done multiple campaigns, and they said that as they do more campaigns, their videos tend to be more polished, and their Kickstarter backers will actually complain that they don't really feel like they're needed. So I think you have to try and walk that fine line between having a good enough quality video to entertain your audience and to show them and to demonstrate that you're trying to be professional without having it be super corporate and alienating those backers that just want to be part of the next big thing. And there are a lot of great resources online to help think through how you can do that successfully. I'm going to interrupt me if this doesn't work. I was going to pause for a second and actually play ours. I thought it might help for next.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome. Let me see if this works. So this is our Kickstarter page right now. This webinar thing out of the corner. Oh, geez. Doesn't work. 1 second. Chris, can you help me with how to make it?
We can't hear the audio, but we can see the video.
Ours is pretty homegrown. Oh, no.
Maybe you can just explain what it's saying instead.
Yeah. So one thing you'll notice about ours is maybe that's the buffer. Bummer. They're not hearing the audio, but he said just to play it. Yeah.
We'll just play the video and just tell us what the audio is saying.
Sure. We really tried to, we may just have to do this on our own. Sorry, I don't good. We really tried to just focus on the product initially. So it was a 3D printer. We tried to provide some education. A lot of the Kickstarter familiar with 3D printed product, the people that we traffic to our website, or especially down here in Chicago, hadn't seen 3D printing before. It was really the first time. So we wanted them to be able to say that this is something that is able to create an object, create your dream, and that it takes it and ultimately melts it to create an object. So that was something that we tried to capture early on. We got a lot of there are a lot of interesting commentary right now around the soundtrack for the video. One thing that we decided to do that we were really intentional about is to choose a soundtrack that was a result of a previous Kickstarter campaign, and we tried to do those plugs as much as possible, whether it was in our video or in our campaign page. So Paul Banks and the Carousels is an Austin-based band who I love, and they were super gracious, and they had just closed on a campaign this last December for their next record through Kickstarter. So they went ahead and allowed us to have a sneak peek at some of the early tracks, and they gave us the instrument tracks for our video as long as they were credited. And I would recommend doing that, especially the Austin community is so supportive of Kickstarter campaigns and collaboration. So if you can connect with an artist in your community that's been on Kickstarter, it's great. Plus, then they're more inclined to share it with their friends too, and it expands your reach. One thing that I would really like to spend a little bit of time on and emphasize is the opportunity to use strategic timing and visibility in parallel with your campaign to really grow your reach. One thing that I think our team agrees pretty wholeheartedly on is having visibility at South by Southwest was integral to our success. We were really fortunate that the day we launched our Kickstarter campaign, we were given a booth at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival at the Pro Chile, Startup Chile display. And lucky for us, because it's kind of an untraditional venue for a 3D printer exposition, we were the only 3D printer in the building. Just through serendipity, Brie Pettis, who's the owner of MakerBot, which is our 3D printing competitor, he makes a really awesome desktop printer. He happened to be opening South by Southwest. So when TechCrunch and Engadget and Boing Boing and all the industry publications that are really relevant to us were publishing the comments for South by Southwest opening up and his viewpoints on 3D printing, they would then proceed in the same paragraph or the same article to touch on how they just saw this really large 3D printer at South by Southwest Interactive and their thoughts on our technology and that we had just launched this Kickstarter campaign. So we got a lot of cross-pollination through that. And granted, I think we were definitely just super lucky in our timing, but I think being at South by was really important for us. So when we were at South by, we raised $30,000 a day. Outside of South by, we would clear maybe at max $8,000 to $9,000 a day on high traffic days. So we really think that that was super relevant to us, and that's advice I give to people in Startup Chile all the time, and that it seems to work out really well. I have a friend right now that has a Startup Chile or a Kickstarter campaign for maps, and so he was really smart in trying to launch his campaign on along the blog cycle for famous cartographers that agreed to feature him and some events that were going on in the online community around that. And I think too, being able to have a physical encounter with a founder or the product while your campaign is going on, especially if there's media involved, is super beneficial because it just makes your campaign more personal. And I think that really tends to resonate with the Kickstarter community because they're looking to build a relationship with you. There's a certain amount of trust that goes into it because they're paying for something up front knowing that it could be a year, and for some 3D printing Kickstarter campaigns, it could be a year and a half before they're going to get their product. And so my personal opinion is that I would even put more energy into strategy and timing than I would your video. Because that's going to allow you to tell your story and to tell it in more than one way, because if you're lucky, if you're at a big press event, maybe you'll get 5 or 6 mentions and publications, and each one of those journalists' interpretation of what you're doing and what you've told them or the photos they take will be a little fresher, so you won't be pushing the same images, the same content, the same Kickstarter all the time, so it makes you a little bit more unique. One thing that shocked us, though, is when we finally launched our campaign and we had this great success, we managed to achieve our $40,000 fundraising goal in just 27 hours and raise another $30,000 the next day. So there's this really cool tool called Kicktracks. And if you look at Kicktracks, what it does is it will project where someone's campaign is going to land. So due to our initial high growth opportunity in the beginning of the campaign and the pledges that we received in our Future in TechCrunch, it actually takes media. I believe it takes your media presence and your reach into its algorithm. It was projecting that we were going to have, I think at one point, like over $10 million in our campaign, which obviously we didn't hit. But so it's very easy early on, I think, to get super confident that you're going to have all this forward momentum and that and that you're going to have to deliver on all the interest, and you start making a lot of assumptions during your campaign, particularly as you start adding reward levels and thinking about stretch goals about the type of interest you're going to have during the duration of your campaign. But one thing that shocked us is just as frequently as people would buy a Gigabot, especially in the second 30 days of our campaign, our product, they would also cancel one. And so we were really intentional in circling back with everyone once we found out there was a canceled pledge. Kickstarter actually sends you an email when you receive a reward, but they also send you an email when someone reduces the contribution or when they pull it. And what you can do from that email, be sure to save those, is you can actually go in then and search for that person in Kickstarter, and you can send them an email and just say, hey, I noticed you pulled your pledge. I was really sad to hear that because we're so thankful for your support and being part of this community. Could you give us a little bit of insight about what guided your decision to not obtain your Gigabot at this juncture? And there were a lot of reasons for it. Because we have a higher price point item, we were told that sometimes that's because 2 or 3 individuals were pulling their money together, and either they realized they couldn't do it or they thought that they might not be able to pay for it in 30 days. They said out of fairness to a potential backer who would want that early reward discounted level, they would reopen it up. And sometimes people actually did end up backing a week or 2 later at a different reward level. Other times people, they read something on Reddit or another social media source or whatnot, and they canceled it. There are people that canceled for unknown reasons, and occasionally someone would just say that they changed their mind. In addition to that, even though you'll have days where people can cancel their pledge throughout the duration of the campaign, so it's a risk you run when you have a 60-day campaign and you're highly visible like ours were, because if you happen just to get a lot of bad press, you could lose all of your backers at the end. And so that's something we really held our breath on because there's a lot of discussion right now around 3D printing and guns, and it's just down the road from Austin. And so we were really concerned that if people intentionally or not made a connection between 3D printing guns and Gigabot, then there was always that risk that if we got a bad press that we could lose a lot of reward level at the end. But in addition to having pulled pledges along the way, we also found that people would cancel, people's credit cards wouldn't charge at the end. So case in point, we raised $250,000 and some change, and that's what you see on our campaign page right now. But when our campaign actually closed, only $127,000 initially charged. So there was a discrepancy of over $123K. Fortunately, we were able to circuit back with most of the buyers and backers and either work through the issues they had or they actually received a notification the backers were notified that their credit card didn't charge, and they cleared up the issue themselves. But it was a ton of legwork on our part, and there were a lot of reasons for that. On our end, we do see if a credit card was declined or if it was over the limit, which allows us to help investigate the issue with our backer. But that's about all we know. And I think what may happen is we found a lot of times it was related to people who backed us overseas. So I think that there might be a limit that the credit card provider will impose on a credit card for a foreign transaction. And so it kind of catches both parties off guard when it doesn't clear. Another reason that we found that credit cards didn't charge is people may have backed, say, on March 17th, and then on May 9th, when I went to charge them for the first time, they had made another high purchase amount, and so that put them over the limit. So I would just prepare yourself for that. I have heard of people, at least in the Startup Chile program, who lost up to 60% of their pledges. They had a really high dollar item. And so when you see that you're raising a certain amount of money, I would just not count your chickens before they hatch and know that there's always the potential that you might not be able to retrieve some of those funds at the end of the campaign. So in regards to stretch goals are something that you set, and there's different schools of thoughts around it, but the stretch goals are something that, a target that you set along your campaign that will help incentivize your backers to back you if they're kind of on the edge, or actually incentivize your current backers to tell their friends to help give you a push to a certain dollar amount. And so people do various things. Some people give away more product. Some people, in our case, we actually just offered a party for hitting 200,000. But one thing that I noticed in a couple of recent business school case studies is, particularly if you're a hardware company, is you can kind of get yourself in trouble. Because if you're truly kickstarting a business like we were, if you continue to set stretch goals and achieving them, you have to remember at the end of the day you still have to deliver on the products that you're offering for your reward level. So there's a lot of discussion right now around limiting how much money you actually want to raise, because every time you fill up a reward level for your backer, you have a chance to offer another one. And if you're not in a position where you and your founders want to make this a full-time job, or if it's going to require more time than pizza and beer can afford with your friends and giving up your weekends to fulfill your orders, sometimes it might make sense to go ahead and just hit your target and then just let the clock on your campaign run out. Additionally, I've seen some of my friends go above and beyond with their stretch goals, and they didn't figure out the cost of whatever that object or incentive was they were giving out and their cost of goods for each backer, and so they end up not making as much money as they thought they might on each product, which is kind of frustrating then when you're going to have to work on delivering them for a year. Secondly, we kind of learned the hard way that when we set a stretch goal of $200,000, well, we didn't really appreciate that the unknown that you might have pulled pledges. There was actually a period of time where we had a stretch goal, we hit it, and we announced it, and then we had no longer hit our stretch goal because people had canceled. So we had a lot of interest from our backer community who said, wait a minute, like technically you hit 200,000, now you're under 200,000, am I still going to get my reward? And it kind of makes you fodder for the press. So I would just really recommend being intentional about your stretch goals, and then also like when you're going to like market them as a success. Understanding that at the end of the day, there's always the potential that you'll close out on that stretch goal, but enough credit cards won't charge to actually have hit it, if that makes any sense. So I would definitely think through those scenarios. In conjunction with stretch goals, again, stretch goals are just a way to show the community that you're super thankful for their involvement and to give them a reason to continue to tell their friends about this really cool decision they make to support you. I go ahead and post frequent updates. We spend most of our time benchmarking against other 3D printing companies, but I have seen that if you're not posting an update once a week, and we experience this as well, your community will actually tell you you're being a slacker. So I would make it a personal goal to post at least once a week. Additionally, one thing I didn't realize until our campaign closed is you actually can continue posting updates throughout the rest of the duration of the profile that you have on Kickstarter in your campaign. So I could post an update for Re3D Gigabot tomorrow if I wanted to. But I think the community, because they are taking a risk and investing in you, and they see it as part of their identity because they're choosing to see themselves as a supporter of this next big thing, It's really important to keep them informed of where you're at. And we did see a conversion between the frequency of our updates, especially towards the end, and then the amount of backers we would get as a result. And then along with that, the more links that you can provide in that, the better. It's really good for your SEO. Our backers really liked video and photos, and they frequently would retweet them out. So one thing that we probably didn't do a very good job of that we should have is put a hashtag in there, like what you would like them to tweet out to their friends, and make it really easy for them to take that content from the update and share it with others. So we talked a little bit about reward levels, and I apologize for not explaining what that was. So reward levels are like basically the packages of support that a potential backer can provide, and frequently it is correlated with an early delivery discounted version of your product. Traditionally in 3D printers, what people do is they offer the reward level that includes the product, kind of either at the price of the cost of goods or what it would cost to manufacture. You're really not making anything off of it, or you're actually losing money. And they do a small amount of them just to kind of seed the campaign early on so it shows traction. And then incrementally, people will increase the rewards along the way. There are some people in the Kickstarter community right now that have had multiple successful campaigns that feel pretty strongly that you should only have 2 to 4 reward levels that you add over time. There are other people, as we did a little bit, that will kind of put a smorgasbord of offerings on there. We actually had even like workshops or installation opportunities for our product in addition to our product, which wasn't well received and traditionally hasn't been in 3D printing, but we threw it up there because we were just curious to see if our backers would find something like that valuable. And then we went ahead and we actually added several award levels at different delivery points because we were really looking to see what the sticky point was for our backer. Like, how long can that lag time be before people just think it's too ridiculous, or the delivery where they'll stop backing you, and how much money are they really willing to pay for something that's unassembled versus assembled. And for us, that was really formative because we had a successful campaign and we're aggressively scaling manufacturing now, and having some high-level conversations with our friends that are investors. It provided really great data for us to say, well, I think this is a sticking point, and these are the margins that we can really project for the next year. And it made our transition to an e-commerce platform, which we have right now, to take pre-orders pretty seamless. So if you can do that, I would recommend it. We do have a 6-person team, though, and I would just like to touch on quickly that it might be helpful to have some decision-making resources established for adding reward levels later, or try and map out what your reward levels will be and which ones you might add if you have, like in our case, you meet your funding goal the first day of the campaign. Because in the 6-person team, we had to quickly come up with a way to bring the team to a vote on what the next reward level would be when it came to delivering, a piece of hardware, when it came to increasing a price point. One thing that worked well for us is at the end of the day, we set up a Skype chat, and it was called Critical Issues. And how our team operates, and it's different obviously for every team, is when 4 out of 6 people agree on something, it triggers an action. So we just had that up 24/7 during the 60-day campaign, so that when a reward level filled up, as soon as it filled up, we were able to approve or adjust as it collectively the next reward level, and then someone can go ahead and post it. And for us, that seemed to work really well. So I would highly recommend piloting it if you're looking for a way to draw consensus quickly during your campaign. Additionally, it was just really helpful for issues that arose with, maybe how we were going to manage a line of communication on Reddit, or we were approached by a lot of different journalists and media, and just had a lot of unique opportunities during the duration of our campaign. And so it was a great opportunity just to get everyone's attention and say, hey, this just kind of fell in our lap. How do we want to proceed? Additionally, I would go ahead during the whole campaign, track who your supporters are. As much as possible, if you can find a way to collect feedback on your backers regarding their market, regarding whether they're a customer or they're a small business or a large corporation, I think that'd be really helpful. We really were depending on Kickstarter to just tell us who our backers were at the end and have aggregated content. And that's unfortunately something that Kickstarter doesn't offer right now. So we have 270 backers. And when our campaign closed, we had a list of who they are, and we had an opportunity to send out a survey to them to get more information. But when you get that information back, say like their mailing address for their t-shirt, it doesn't come in a spreadsheet. It actually just comes as individual links, and it's up to you to click on each one and read the response and the box they filled out, and then to import that into your own tool. So if you can set up that data capture in advance, would be really helpful. Additionally, one thing we didn't do is a common investor question we get right now is whether or not our customers are individuals or businesses. And maybe we should have made that a survey question. But additionally, what we found is a lot of people don't fill out the surveys or don't fill out the surveys completely that Kickstarter offers. But what they did do along the way is we would get tons of inbound emails from potential backers that had questions about our product. So now what we have to do is we have to go through and scrub all those emails and then match them to the conversions we had on Kickstarter. If we had had a spreadsheet or a tool going along the way, it would have made that a lot easier. And additionally, I think tone is really important. So it's all about your customer and your backer at the end of the day. And from what I'm told and what I've seen so far in my limited experience is it's really not about you. It is a lot of it is about your product, but it's more about the backer. The backer sees this as, you know, extension of themselves, who they are. If they're cool, they're hip, they're a first-time user, about to be a first-time user of a product. They see themselves as being responsible for the success of your company, and they don't just see that as during the duration of Kickstarter. They see it as they're part of, you know, your story, your identity. So a couple of copywriters that have had successful campaigns in Startup Chile told me just to be really cognizant of the language that you use in your updates, in your emails, correspondence. So you're getting inbound traffic, whether through Kickstarter or through your company's email, the people that find you on LinkedIn, however they reach out to you, and make sure that you frame everything in terms of the customer. So one thing we're really intentional about is recognizing that it's not our gigabot. When someone buys a gigabot, our product, they're buying their gigabot. And so we try to term everything in terms of like the usages that they'll have for their gigabot or when their gigabot is getting delivered. We try, because we do love community, and that's a big tenet of what our company is anyway, to frame everything in terms of them. So thank you for your support. You know, you are hugely responsible, no pun intended, for driving the success of this product. We can't wait to see what you're going to do with yours, that type of language. And I don't think that should be limited just to social media. Also, like just in your business communications, even our newsletters that go out to everyone. Just really recognize them as being super formative and who you are and where your product's going. And for that reason, I think it's really important that, again, you have these frequent updates. You're really active on social media because they see themselves as being part of something that's dynamically growing because of their input. Our Kickstarter backers continually send us links of stuff that they think we should be aware of in the field, or thoughts on where our next product should go, or enhancements they can make to their gigabot as they know we're prototyping right now so that their user experience can be better. And that's been super educational, so you can gain a lot from listening to your customer and the community as well. If possible, there's a lot of, you can read more about it online, but there are a lot of factors that go into making a trending Kickstarter campaign. South by Southwest really helped us out. But one thing you can track towards initially is just Kickstarter has several ways they pick staff picks. They have staff picks and trending campaigns per locality, and Austin's one of them. And then they also have trending campaigns and staff picks for each category. So case in point, we fall into the technology category. They look at your reach. They look at people are saying about you. They look at your presence on social media. The Kickstarter employees are at a lot of these big events, so it's pretty easy to arrange an opportunity to engage with them and to get it on their radar. Unfortunately, though, when you are a staff pick, you don't know about it unless you see it. They don't send you a notification. So we had our backer community actually informed us when we were a staff pick and sent us a screenshot, and we were really thankful for that. So be sure to check staff picks frequently, and then I would highly recommend looking at the staff picks like in the days leading up to your own campaign and seeing like what types of things they're doing, the language they're using around their backers, how they're incentivizing them, what types of social media platforms they're utilizing, because all that weighed into them getting that position. But a lot of our backers did tell us that we definitely saw a surge when we were staff picks in our backing, that especially the frequent Kickstarter backers, they'll just go to the staff pick category every morning and kind of scroll through it, and that's how they sort and filter the types of campaigns they might support. And again, one thing that really helps you becoming not only a staff pick, but also providing opportunity for additional reach and visibility is through content, and video and photos seem to be what our backers connected with the most, and still is today. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, even if it's just you know, a screenshot of this little tweak you're making to a design file that's going to feed your future product, or a snapshot of one of your partners making an adjustment to the prototype. Any type of modification you can make, any type of interaction you have with the community. We tried to publish pictures of some of our early backers that in Texas that weren't too far from us, that were engaging with the product and getting that firsthand experience. That really, really helps. And then finally, like, I believe it's super important to be realistic. So, you know, think about your stretch goals. Think about whether or not you can really meet the delivery times that you're projecting, because the Kickstarter community has a lot to say about people that don't follow through on their delivery times, as well as honoring the price point. So if you say shipping's included, make sure you think about whether or not they're going to have to pay for customs, and that you made that clear. And think about whether you and your team is going to have the time and the bandwidth to support not only the delivery of your product, but also the amount of visibility and interest and inbound emails you might get. If you can't answer all of your emails in 48 hours, I would suggest maybe holding off or spacing out your reward levels or some of your pushes with stretch goals, just so you can get caught up on that. When it comes to media and press, we think quality is more than quantity. Myself and a number of people in Startup Chile share a spreadsheet of media contacts for about 500 people around the world. And we've all seen a pretty low conversion rate between press releases and getting push. What I think is more helpful is sending targeted emails with specific opportunities to either be the first one to push something that came out, or to feature content, or to share a photo that maybe is exclusive to them, and that seemed to be much more successful for almost all of us. And then finally, it came as a bit of a surprise to us. We knew the community was mobilized, but Kickstarter is really never over. Your campaign's email is always open, so we're still getting emails every day. And it's now been, golly, we closed on May 9th, so almost 2 months later. In addition to our company email, our backers are still expecting updates, and we're still learning to get better about that. We still get comments on our page. I think there's 2 right now we haven't answered that filter in. And unfortunately, at the end of your campaign, Kickstarter stops sending you notifications when people comment on your page or when they send you an email. So it's easy to forget about it because it is kind of, you know, a lot of time has passed now for us since our campaign closed. And so we're not as intentional about checking it daily as we should be, and checking the comment section. So just keep that in mind, that it's not over. You can still alienate your backers or frustrate them. And I'm continually amazed at the amount of people that email us after seeing some activity on our Kickstarter page. So people are still checking it pretty frequently. So you might want to keep that in mind. I've been looking at other 3D printer campaigns, and people are still posting updates a year or 2 later. So just understand that once you make the commitment to Kickstarter, it is, you know, a very transparent place where people share their feedback and you share what you're doing, and it's going to involve a certain level of commitment to maintain. So those are a lot of our lessons learned. I'm hoping that was helpful to you. Please feel free to share questions either with Hal today or in the future. We're still guinea pigs ourselves, but we're really interested in learning more about this tool because we think it's super valuable. There are other crowdfunding platforms out there. We're actually co-located with EDMA down here at the Santiago Makerspace, which is a crowdfunding platform here in Latin America. A lot of my friends there have done Indiegogo and some of the new crowdfunding campaigns for women in the area, and they've had mixed results. One good thing about Indiegogo is you get to keep your money. You have the option of keeping your money without reaching a certain trigger, whereas in Kickstarter you have to hit your goal. But in my personal opinion, I think Kickstarter is probably the most visible funding tool you can use right now. We've seen the highest conversion with it.
Right. Well, great, Samantha. Thank you so much for that information. For those who are new to our webinar, there's a questions box in the right-hand side of your screen. Go ahead and type in those questions. Several questions have already come in as you were presenting, Samantha, and I'll just go and read them off, and we'll use the time we have remaining to answer any questions that people have. The first question is how often did you change the video on your site during your 60-day campaign?
Sure, so that's a great question. We actually did not change our video. We maintained it the whole time. In fact, hold on one second. Are you allowed to change your video on your campaign? I know you can add videos in the campaign page, embedded content the whole time, but I'm not certain that's possible. I believe it's locked in because that is one of the things that Kickstarter reviews before your campaign's released to determine if it meets the quality and the standards that they've outlined. My partner's checking right now.
Okay. The next question is, will the slide deck be available after the presentation? Is that something we can share with the audience?
Absolutely. Feel free to shoot it out, and then I was just thinking today we should probably go ahead and create a SlideShare account for a company, and we can post them there as well. So you'll find that link in the next week on our re3d.org webpage.
Okay, that sounds great. Next question is why did you choose Kickstarter over Rocket Hub, Indiegogo, or any other platform? Was there an advantage?
Sure. So again, Startup Chile is kind of our sandbox for making mistakes and learning from the 105 companies that come in 4 times a year through the program. And in my experience and a lot of my peers, the amount of money that you could raise on Kickstarter, statistically, if you look at some of the blogs online, is a bit higher. Also, the Kickstarter community has a lot of energy around 3D printing, so for our market and our product, it made a lot of sense for us. There are fewer on Indiegogo. We really wanted to build off of the success of the companies and the products that have gone before us in the 3D printing community.
Okay. What was the price of the Gigabot that you charged that was such a high price?
So we actually had multiple reward levels. Let me see if I can pull up our campaign page so you can see that. But in the beginning, we weren't actually charging that much money. We started off at $2, and we had 2 different we always offered. We offered a version or a full and again, we started off at a $2,000 price point, which has sustained our company. And then we brought it up to which is $4,000 for the parts and $5,500 flat pack unit. It's minimal assembly. In regards to your video question, my partner just notified me that you can edit the video after launching, but it's limited to just the description. Oh no, yeah, it says you can edit. You can edit the video and image.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah, you can't edit the funding goal or the deadline.
All right. Did you use a PR firm or did you do your own PR?
We did all of our own PR. That kind of goes hand in hand with a thought on the video quality. I've had some friends that have done it. A lot of PR firms, so once you hit, it's kind of interesting, certain funding points, people solicit you for a lot of opportunities or offer you discounted opportunities and experiences. So a lot of them approached us. It looked like, from what my friends have said and what I saw, is you could, for $3,000 to $5,000, you could hire someone to manage your presence, and a lot of successful campaigns have been managed that way. Our theory was we got so much attention in our first 48 hours, and we had already made TechCrunch. We weren't really sure how much a media firm could extend our reach, and we decided that for the price of one of our products, $3,000, we would rather go ahead and use that money for something else. Additionally, we are in a tough spot now. We raised $250,000, and we're working really hard to deliver our units on time and to make sure they're high quality. And we felt that if we doubled the amount of money we raised, we wouldn't have been able to be as intentional about that. Right.
And how much of the funding came from Kickstarter's efforts versus your own efforts?
So of the $250,000?
Yes.
That all came from the community. And my mom, a $100 vase, and a couple of our partners backed themselves for T-shirts as well. But all of that came from the community.
Do you recommend using your own website instead of Kickstarter's website?
Our own website? So I would recommend doing that. The only downside is I would disable your comments. I'm hesitating saying this because I know it's being taped right now. Because you have to manage Kickstarter has multiple ways the community can contact you, so through the comment section or through the email tool that Kickstarter has. Assuming you also have a company email, now you're managing 3 different presences plus your Facebook plus your Twitter, which also can receive inbound emails. And so we just found, personally, on our first iteration of our website, we had comments on every page, so people were asking us really pointed questions and technical questions in the comment section. Sometimes they would get lost. So I would recommend definitely having a company website with more information that you can provide on Kickstarter, or organizing it better, because that can live after the campaign and it's not locked in. And then also going ahead and just disabling your comments if you're like us and you're just having a hard time keeping up with the volume of interest.
Okay. What are some things I should do before launching my project?
Definitely set up Amazon payments. And I would go ahead and really set up your reward levels. I would do like you do your financials to your company, maybe like an unexpected high success scenario, and then maybe a lower than expected scenario. Really look at the margins you're going to make on it, and if that can sustain your company or truly kickstart it. And then outline all of the rewards for each. We were doing a lot of that on the fly, and that made, just one more thing we had to do during Kickstarter when you're managing a lot of inbound interest. And then I would really think about who on your team is going to manage what form of inquiries, or if you say you get opportunities to have interviews with the press in advance, because we were scrambling to do a lot of that. And one thing that we didn't do, but I probably would do in hindsight, or if we do a second campaign, is have a calendar of who's managing the volume of traffic, so you can kind of take turns, like over the weekends, over certain holidays. Because if you're, what we found is if it takes you more than 2 days to respond to something, the community has a lot, share that with you, and they're disappointed, want to honor their interest.
Okay. So any advice about projects that do not have a cool product, but maybe delivering cool technology to the industry, but need help crossing the development chasm? So how do you promote a product that's maybe not as cool as yours?
So my friend, I'm going to use my friend that makes maps as an example again. One interesting thing that he did is he looked at who, because he didn't feel like maps were as exciting initially, if he looked at who was a cool blogger in the community that had recently talked about a cool map that they saw, or different industries that might overlap that usage. And he was really strategic in trying to get reach and interest in advance with those communities and getting them on board with the promise of a product. So then when its Kickstarter campaign launched, they could collaborate on an article of interest that would benefit both of them, and stuff like that. So I would really look at like your audience and who would connect with the product, and then try being really strategic and seeing how you can include them in ensuring that you get the reach that you need in that initial traction. Because I think a lot of people look at traction as a metric in addition to the product, especially if the product's something new or they weren't aware of beforehand. Because they're like, oh, everyone else is doing it. Maybe I need to learn more about this myself.
Okay. So how do you confirm that your product or business will be allowed on Kickstarter? They do have exclusions. Who grants permission to launch?
I'm not sure exactly how that works on the back end, but they do touch base on that. If you go to kickstarter.com/help/FAQs, they have some frequently asked questions there, but Kickstarter does a great job on their website of laying out, and it does change, so you have to check it frequently. But case in point, when we launched, I believe you could not have health and beauty products on Kickstarter. And you can't be raising money, like, say, for a nonprofit. But what they will allow is always evolving as they learn more about the community and how Kickstarter can benefit startups. So I would definitely check that resource out.
All right. How many people did you need to manage the Kickstarter project, and how much time did they have to devote to it after the product launched?
Well, we're a startup, so for us, we are committed to making this a business and onboarding our team. I think most of my teammates would agree that's pretty much a full-time job. I was actually the only person working full-time on our team during the duration of the campaign. There's now 2 of us that are full-time in the company. But I would say that for my partners that have spouses and children and full-time jobs, they found that they were doing Re3D full-time afterwards, and there's a lot of sacrifices to be made. It's highly demanding, especially if you're successful, because there's just so much inbound interest. Like, expect to get 100 or 200 emails sometimes in a day, and you want to be really intentional, because I took the time to reach out to you to respond to them. So I think the email inquiries were a lot of our bandwidth. But additionally, like as soon as we saw that we had traction and we were fortunate to hit our goal early on, we could start planning for manufacturing. So during Kickstarter, you also really like kickstarting your business and your product development and making iterations on it to share with the community. So I would say during Kickstarter, during those 60 days, I found I was working, on Kickstarter alone, I was probably working 70 hours a week, plus all of the other things going on with startup formation, and I would say all my partners are giving a full-time effort.
All right. What market intelligence did you get out of it that surprised you?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we found that people weren't as interested in maybe a workshop experience. We also found that we offered a custom gigabot for $10,000 or more. And although nobody ended up backing it, we had a lot of interest around that. One thing that surprised us is we got a lot of interest in volume inquiries up front for people that wanted to have their own gigabot farm. And so if you go to our online marketplace now through my Shopify and Re3D, you'll notice that we have several volume packages, and we've been really successful in selling those. Had we not done Kickstarter, we probably wouldn't have offered those right away because we didn't think that there would be an interest in that until we were further along.
Great. So how do you determine a funding goal?
That's a great question. In my experience, we have a high price point product, so it's a little different for us. But my friends that have lower price point products will find that people just want to get the product. So the Doodle Pen, if you can check that out on Kickstarter, that's a really good example. It's $100. They raised a ton of money and did a great job getting backers interested in their product and getting product in the hands of a backer. A lot of people say it's best to offer like a T-shirt or a sticker, something like that, some sort of swag. And then maybe something related to your product, so we're offering a 3D printed base. But then really try and get to the product right away. Because at the end of the day, you really want to know, like, are people going to like my product? Is this going to be worth the investment of time to make a company out of it? And is it going to be something I enjoy doing? And then also, you know, how much are they willing to spend for it, and how long are they willing to wait?
Great. Well, those are all the questions that have come in now. I'm sure there may be more in the future. And we appreciate your taking time, Samantha, to share your information with us about Kickstarter. Congratulations on a successful campaign, and looking forward to seeing you back here in the U.S. soon to launch your company and carry it forward to the next level after you've delivered all these great projects to the Kickstarter community. Thank you so much. Is there any final words you have for us?
No, I just want to say thank you, and feel free to catch me on Twitter or through re3d.org. If you want to email us at info@re3d.org, we'll try and answer you as timely as possible and share and answer any questions you may have. And we have a huge heart for the Austin community, and my understanding is a lot of you guys are there now, and we have founders there. So let us know if you ever want to catch coffee or if you want us to preview your video. I think we're all in this together. So
well,
good luck to everyone, and Paul, thanks for your time.
You bet. Well, thank you so much for offering that and for sharing your information. Have a great week and great holiday, and we'll see you guys next time. With that, we'll go ahead and close it out, and thank you guys for joining us today. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a great day.